Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today, we're going to be talking about Shazam Fury of the Gods. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. So, Shazam Fury of the Gods is the sequel to Shazam, obviously, which came out in 2019. Yes, right here, 2019. So, the whole gimmick of Shazam is that you have this kid, Billy Batson, who gets who gets like godlike powers from a wizard, and with those powers, he is able to turn into a fully grown adult who has like a super suit and everything, and all he has to do to transform into this adult version of himself is say Shazam, and boom, he becomes this with the red suit and the cape and then the lightning bolt, all of that. So basically, Shazam as a character is just a kid cosplaying as an adult. That's how I would describe it. And when the first movie was coming out, I didn't know how people were going to feel about it. I was like, I mean, this character is pretty obscure for like a majority of like the movie going public. I mean, sure, superheroes they've ballooned in popularity, especially in the 2010s. And well, it started in the 2000s, but it really got going in the 2010s, especially with more obscure characters getting their chance to shine. Um, I thought Shazam would be a little too out there, like the premise a little too goofy, a little too silly, but turns out I was wrong because, you know, the movie got a really good response from like critics and audiences. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it. And the movie financially, it did fine. I mean, its gross is less than average for a mainstream like superhero movie. Like it's a modern day superhero movie. It didn't help. It had to deal with Avengers Endgame coming out 3 weeks later, where it got just cream murdered, massacred. Oof. Just look at that 66% drop. That was the weekend Endgame came out. Endgame killed pretty much every movie out there. It was rough. And Shazam, it got hit and got hit hard. But the thing is, the movie only cost like $85 million, so it didn't need to make like $1 billion to make a profit. Like 363 million was fine enough. And I guess Warner Brothers looked at that box office, they looked at the response the movie got, and were like, all right, we should keep going with this. Let's make a sequel. And here we are, 4 years later, with the sequel. So, yeah. So, ideally, Shazam 2's situation, or at least before reviews came out about it, before, I guess initially, the situation seemed like, okay, Shazam Fury of the Gods is a sequel to a movie that was a success. It's a movie that people liked, so it could be one of those the sequel, it could be one of those sequels that benefits from the goodwill of its predecessor, which results in a higher box office, or at least an equal box office. That's what I thought. That's not coming true, but I will get to that later when we get to the cons. But the fact is, Shazam, the first one, was a success, and people liked it, and that's a good thing. So having a well-received predecessor is definitely a pro in my book. So that's pro number one. Pro number two, the DCEU. I guess this could be a pro and a con at the same time. I don't know why the Batman Part 2 is here. It's not connected. Whatever. So, the DCEU. All right. This part of the video, I'm going over like the pro side of the DCU. I'll go over the con side later. But for the pro side, I mean, a decent amount of these movies, they have done well. They made money. Sure, they may not have been well received, but they made a nice amount of cash. I mean, Man of Steel made money. Batman v Superman made money, even though it should have made $1 billion. And I know for a fact that keeps Warner Brothers awake at night. The fact that it didn't reach $1 billion. Suicide Squad, despite being trash, made 700 million. Wonder Woman, their first good movie, made 800 million. Aquaman made over a billion, still their biggest movie. Shazam made over 300 million. And yeah, I guess I could. Outside of the DCU, there's the Batman, which made a lot of money. Joker made over $1 billion. So yeah, DC movies can make money. They don't have to be good to make money. You just got to market them well. If you do that, you are solid. Sure, they've had some bombs, and I'll go over those when we get to the cons. But the DCU movies can make money, and I would consider that to be a pro here. So yeah, DCU can make money. I'm trying to think of some other pros. Oh God. I'm kind of struggling. I'm really struggling for pros. Screw it. Let's go to cons. This is gonna be so much fun because some of these cons I expected, but a lot of them I did not expect. So let's start. So going back to the DCEU. Oh my God. Like this. So the DCU has been around for 10 years. It has been an absolute clusterfuck of epic proportions, to say the least. I mean, just so I'd be here all day if I discussed the DCEU. I mean, start from Man of Steel. Sure, it made money, but it was very divisive. Then they made BVS, which got shat on by a lot of people, and it failed to reach high expectations. And then the Suicide Squad, although that made money, that was shit on by a lot of people. So things were not going in the way they Warner Brothers wanted them to. And sure, Wonder Woman was their first real bright spot. But then the same year, they made Justice League, which was a huge disaster from a box office standpoint, from a PR standpoint, from a production standpoint, a whole mess right there, a whole shit show. But Aquaman, although I don't think Aquaman was all that good, it still made $1 billion, so that's fine. Shazam was well received, made a decent amount of cash. So things were going okay after the Justice League debacle. But then Birds of Prey came out and set all that back. all that all that success back. Because that underperformed, and then COVID happened, and then the next two movies were victims of the HBO Max experiment. Wonder Woman 1984 and The Suicide Squad both did really bad because of external circumstances. Well, Wonder Woman 1984, that was just a straight up terrible movie. The Suicide Squad deserved better. Deserved so much better. It's a crime that movie didn't do well. Because probably the best movie out of all of these. But yeah. Yeah, but it tanked. It just tanked. And then the most recent DCU movie was Black Adam, which was the spin-off of Shazam. And Black Adam, might as well go over that really fast because it is connected to Shazam. Came out last October, starred The Rock. It had this big hype campaign surrounding it. Warner Brothers they tried desperately to make Black Adam a thing, like really make this movie the biggest deal, and it refused to happen because it only opened slightly bigger than the first Shazam. Like for comparison's sake, the first Shazam only opened with like $53 million. Black Adam's $67 million, so not exactly a high increase. And domestically, it's kind of the same deal, and worldwide, same thing. But the difference is that Shazam only cost $85 million. Black Adam, $200 million. They spent $200 million on a movie based on a character, based off the villain of basically a B C list character. You made a villain movie about, like, it baffles me why they spent so much money on a Black Adam movie. Most people don't know who Black Adam is. Well, I know who Black Adam is, but all I know is that he's Shazam's nemesis. That's it. Like, a whole lot of people didn't know who he was. and like the these box office results, they didn't really surprise me all that much. And the movie lost money. It's a fact. Although apparently, like The Rock and his team, I don't know if it was him or his team, they try to like come out with like this financial statement that's like, no, it made money. That's a lie. Those reports are a lie. It's fake news that Black Adam didn't do well. But you look at the numbers, you're like, yeah, this didn't do well. So it's just a mess. Black Adam, it was a flop, just straight flop. And if you're mad about me calling it a flop, too bad. That's the truth. You're gonna have to accept it, just like how I have to accept the fact that the Suicide Squad bombed. Okay, you're gonna have to accept that Black Adam bombed. Okay, and now we're here. So yeah, God, the DCU is just such a mess. From just not don't even get me started about all the canceled movies they've had. Like remember Batgirl last year? That got killed off. Wonder Woman 3 got killed off. Henry Cavill was literally like a cameo. He came back for his cameo as Superman and Black Adam, and then literally like a little while after that, like I believe only a few weeks after that, he got booted from the DCU. So that basically made Black Adam. That was the big selling point was the post credit scene. But because Henry Cavill's not Superman anymore, that makes the whole movie worthless. Worthless. You might as well throw it in the trash. It means nothing. Pretty much all of these movies are going to mean nothing after The Flash because that's supposed to reboot everything. So yeah, that's the case definitely for Shazam: Fury of the Gods. But yeah, it's just the DCU is such a chaotic disaster that it's just that's just a big con. It's a part of a chaotic, fractured brand. So that's a big con right there. Another con is that I think I already mentioned this with the Flash. What the Flash is supposed to do is it's supposed to follow the Flashpoint storyline, where in that storyline, Flash screws up everything, tries to go back in time, screws up everything, and as a result, he has to reboot the whole timeline. That's what's probably going to happen in the Flash movie, and because of that, you just have to ask, what's the point? What's the point of Shazam 2 if we know that it doesn't matter, right? Like, oh god, like it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like all the X-Men movies after Days of Future Past. Or actually, before Days of Future Past. All of them are worthless. Maybe with the exception of First Class, but they're all worthless now. Well, actually, all the X-Men movies are worthless. Actually, this movie is kind of in the same position as Dark Phoenix. Remember from like 4 years ago, which the same year Shazam came out. Isn't that crazy? But let's look at Dark Phoenix. Okay, that's a fantastic comparison. So Dark Phoenix, where like I know this is like a X-Men Marvel, it doesn't matter. But the situation is more or less the same. Where Dark Phoenix was coming out, and we all knew that the MCU, well, the X-Men, the Fox X-Men were gonna get killed off. They were done with it. It was over, and all the characters were gonna be rebooted in the MCU. Everyone knew that going into Dark Phoenix, and so no one thought it was necessary to watch the movie. And as a result, the movie bombed hard. It also didn't help the movie was trash. Absolute garbage. But yeah, the fact that the movie was pretty much made worthless before it came out, yeah, that didn't help anything. So Shazam 2 is in the same situation as Dark Phoenix, and you never, ever, ever want to be in the same sentence as Dark Phoenix. So yeah. Yeah, so Shazam Fury of the Gods now has to deal with the fact that it's now worthless. So that's a big con, the fact that it's worthless in the grand scheme of things. So that's con number 2. Con number 3, reviews. They are not good. They are not ideal at all. Actually, in fact, like the embargo lifted like kind of late, like later than I would have expected. That concerned me I was like, ugh. That because usually when an embargo is like lifted super late, that's usually a red flag. That pretty much means the movie probably sucks, and they're trying to hide. They're trying to hide that for as long as they possibly could, well, as long as they possibly can. And like Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the review started out strong in like the 70 range, but then as like the last 2 days have went by, that score has plummeted. As right now, off screen, it's at 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is for a critic score, which is, I mean, it's not the worst we've ever seen. I mean, Ant Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has a worse score, but that's not exactly a score I would be proud of. That's not a score I would want to market and advertise. That's going to be a type of score that deters people, that draws people away, and not draws them in. So, and it's a whole lot worse than like the first Shazam. I believe the first Shazam was like a 90%. I believe I'm gonna look it up. Shazam. Let me see. Yeah, 90%. So this is a huge step down from the first movie, it seems. So yeah. Oof. I mean, its audience score is better. It's at 85%, which is decent enough. But although, let me look this up to be sure. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. What was its audience score? 83%. Yeah. So it's about the same as that. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had really terrible word of mouth, which caused it to drop hard and just plummet into oblivion. So the 83% did nothing for Quantumania, and I don't think an 85% is going to do anything for Fury of the Gods. So yeah, reviews bad. I believe like I watched some video reviews, and they're all just like, yeah, this movie is not nowhere near as good as the first one. So yeah, reaction seems to be not good. So overall reaction bad or lackluster. So that's definitely a con. Um, Another con is the fact that competition is fierce right now, very fierce. I mean, March, like, it's been a very competitive month. It's been a very like temple heavy month. I mean, we started the month with Creed 3, and then after that we had Scream 6 last weekend. And those two movies are still making some money this weekend. And that, and not to mention Shazam, like after this, next week, John Wick Chapter 4. The week after that, Dungeons and Dragons. Week after that, the Super Mario Brothers movie. That's a lot of movies. Okay, a lot of big-ish movies coming out. And like this weekend, it was Shazam Fury of the Gods. This was one weekend to shine. It's one weekend to have all the glory before it got crushed by the other movies coming out. And at the rate things are going, there is no glory. There is no glory. There's just embarrassment. But yeah, so competition right now, competition in the future, it's all a con, big con for this movie. And not to mention, I might as well mention. Actually, I will mention those. Um, the fact that John Wick Chapter 4 next week is going to take away this movie's fanboy audience, and then the Super Mario Bros. Movie is going to take away this movie's family audience. So the two demographics that Shazam 2 needs to succeed, they're both going to be gone. They're both going to split once John Wick and Super Mario come out. So yeah, competition is a huge problem. So that's a con. Um oh yeah, Thursday previews. Oh shit. Wow. I wasn't expecting a lot. I wasn't expecting an overwhelming amount, but 3.4 million. I was like, God damn. I haven't seen preview numbers this low for a superhero movie in a long time. It's I don't even remember the last time I've seen preview numbers this dismal. I mean, let's just look through like some comparisons for comparison's sake. There's a lot of movies I can compare this to. Black Adam, for example, the last DCEU movie. That had a Thursday preview of 7.6. Shazam Fury of the Gods is less than half of Black Adam. And keep in mind, Black Adam was not a success. So the fact that it's like less than half of that, that is a sign of disaster. Of imminent disaster. Of imminent doom. But not only that, the Shazam. The first Shazam. How does it compare to that? Well, it's not good either. It's like 9.225, although that included like some Fandango previews. So its real Thursday night previews were 5.9, which means it's still Shazam 2 is still way, way lower than 5.9. Ugh. And it just gets worse. I mean, most of these movies here, like 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 comparing this to Thor Love and Thunder, Ant-Man the Wasp Quantum is pointless. The Batman also pointless. The Suicide Squad, let's compare it to that. So the Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey. There's also that. Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey. Alright, let's compare it to those two now. The Suicide Squad, its Thursday preview was 4.1 million. Did worse than that. It did worse. It did worse than one of the biggest bombs in the DCEU. Like, shit. And Birds of Prey, that had a Thursday preview of 4 million. So it did even worse than Birds of Prey. And Birds of Prey was considered a huge flop. Everybody was roasting it, making memes about how it got crushed by the Sonic movie. Like, its numbers are worse than that, too. It's crazy. Like, hell, Dark Phoenix. Let's go back to Dark Phoenix. I'm showing you all these comparisons just to really show you how terrible these numbers really are. But Dark Phoenix, one of the biggest superhero bombs of the past decade. Thursday preview, $5 million. This did worse than Dark fucking Phoenix. A franchise killer. Did worse than that. And how could I forget Morbius from last year? How could I forget? Morbius. What was his Thursday preview? 5.7. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the very blatant problem here? It's I think there may be one superhero movie that's done worse than Shazam 2. The New Mutants. I think that's it. I think that's the one. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it should be. The New Mutants. That had Thursday preview of 750K. But that literally came out like 2 weeks after theaters reopened, after they were closed for like 5 months because of the pandemic. So I'll give New Mutants a pass here. Because it has an excuse. A legitimate excuse. Shazam 2 has no excuse. There's no excuse for how bad it's doing. That excuse doesn't exist. Okay. It's just, and I'm pretty sure it's done worse. Its Thursday preview is worse than like all MCU movies. Yeah, it is worse than all of them. by a large by embarrassing amount. John, with my memory, if my memory serves me right. Yeah, it's done worse than all of them. Even the first Ant-Man. So, yeah, these preview numbers are just god awful. Might as well continue with the comparisons. Last weekend, actually, 2 weeks ago, Creed 3. And a week ago, Scream 6. Let's look at those Thursday previews. So Creed 3's Thursday preview was 5.45. Yeah, 5.445 million Thursday night. Scream 6. 5.7. Yeah, it's a disaster. I'm not exaggerating. This movie it's in bomb territory at this point. There's no saving it. The I can't, Thursday previews are a disaster. Con, big con, enormous con. And I think I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. I've covered all the major points. So, opening weekend, man, literally weeks ago, I thought this movie would open in the 50 million range. I thought it would open on the same level as Shazam, maybe a bit worse, but around the same level. Then I saw the official tracking was like at what, 30 to 40 million, I think. I'm gonna check because I remember seeing those numbers. I was like, whoa, 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 what's going on? What's happening? I thought that was pretty shocking because I'm like, Shazam was like a well received movie, so one would think, oh, the sequel will benefit from that. Like plenty of sequels benefit from their predecessors being good. Shrek, 21 Jump Street, let's see, movies like Pirates of the Caribbean, The Matrix, The Hangover, they all benefited from that. Even movies that you think would have benefited more, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 and Deadpool 2, they at least still made a lot of money. They were at least close to their predecessors. But I've never seen a situation where the first movie is really good and it does well, and like that, I guess that goodwill just doesn't translate to the sequel. I've never seen that. That is rare. This is a rarity. Like it's just shocking. But I'm trying to find that article. I don't think I'm gonna find it. Oh well. Actually, wait. I know what to do. Shazam, Fury of the Gods. I will find that article. Blah blah blah. Where is it? Okay. So it's eyeing a 35 million opening. That was like February 23rd. That was when the article came out. I was like, "Oh my god. What's happening?" But I'm like, "Okay, this a few weeks away. The movie's coming out in a few weeks. There's a chance for things to improve. Tracking can be very volatile." I mean, I remember like Deadpool was tracked to open with like 60 million and it opened with like 130. So your tracking can be very wrong. So I'll give it some time. Maybe things will improve. They did not improve. I noticed that the hype was not there at all. I was not feeling any hype, any excitement. I felt nothing. Yeah, it was nothing. And I'm like, oh man, this maybe there's some last minute hoorah or something, but no, that didn't happen either. I was like, holy shit, this movie's gonna tank. And yeah, like these Thursday night previews, that's the final nail in the coffin right there. Ugh. So yeah. I didn't even mention like the marketing, like with Warner Brothers. I guess Warner Brothers Discovery. Man, they dropped the ball so hard with the marketing campaign. It's unbelievable. You think they would push this movie really hard to, treat it like a big deal, like an event movie, and they didn't even try. I barely seen ads for this movie, and Warner Brothers are ruthless with ads for their movies. And this one, it's like they didn't even care. They just said, whatever. Like they just dumped $125 million down the drain. Like, what the hell, WB? Or I guess WBD? What are you doing? Are you trying to go bankrupt? Are you trying to go under? Making these terrible decisions? Like, come on. At least if you build it up, it would have had a good opening weekend, but it's not going to have that anymore. So, originally I was like, okay, 50 million. But now, 30 million. 30, just 30 million. Maybe five, like, okay, 25 to 30 million to $35 million. That's where I'm going. That's my range. It's an awful range, but that's what I see now. If this goes under 30, ooh, you can kiss Shazam goodbye. You're never gonna see a movie about him again. So yeah, so 25 to 35 million. Even if it hits 35 million, it's still terrible. compared to its predecessor, which opened like 53 million, and just most superhero movies in general. It's still terrible. And compared to its budget, this movie it's fucked. It is absolutely fucked, and it's total with that competition coming up. I don't see this movie having long legs. I'd be shocked if it made over 100 million domestic. So instead, I'm gonna go with I have a wide-ish range. How about 70 to 90 million dollars domestically, which would be worse than the opening weekends of a bunch of superhero movies. So, yeah, it'll probably one of the worst performing DCU movies of all time. I mean, this is the final year of the DCU. You think it would go off with a bang? It's going out with a whimper, and it won't be the last whimper either. They got three more movies. You got The Flash, you got Blue Beetle, you got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The Flash has to deal with Ezra Miller's bullshit. The Blue Beetle, no one gives a damn about that movie. And Aquaman 2 has to deal with Amber Heard's bullshit. So, and not to mention awful test screenings. So, man, like 2025, like that is gonna be Warner Brothers. Like they're I bet they're begging for the clock to go faster so they can reach the reboot point. Because man, this is gonna be a rough year for DC. Hell, it's gonna be a rough year for the whole genre. This could be the turning point where people finally said, you know what? Enough with the cape shit. We're done. That could happen realistically at this point, judging by how Ant-Man 3 did last month. So, yeah, just it's a whole shit show. And I'm here to report on it. So, yeah. But yeah, I know I've been rambling about Shazam 2 and how bad it's doing right now. So, yeah, we're done with that. We're done with the weekend. The weekend's over. Now, next weekend, we're going to talk about a movie that people are actually excited about. John Wick Chapter 4, which I am fully expecting to be a big money movie. I mean, why wouldn't it be a big money movie at this point? It has everything going for it. So yeah, I can't wait to talk about that next weekend. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. We'll check out more videos like this. Got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I made this year, or all the ones I made the past few years. The fact is, the first Shazam, I wasn't able to cover it because, like, when the first Shazam came out, I was doing like summer predictions, so I couldn't do it. But now I get to do the sequel and talk about how much of a disaster it is box office wise. So that's great. But yeah, if you want to watch any of the past prediction videos I made, go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. Shazam. I talked about this movie 5 times. 5 times. The first was like episode 7. That was 3 years ago. Episode 7. I talked about it alongside The Batman, Venom 2, or Venom Let There Be Carnage, In the Heights, and The Flash. Talked about it alongside those movies. So that was the first time I talked about it. The next time I talked about it was episode 21. Talked about it alongside Dune, The Batman, The Flash, Black Adam, Monster Hunter, and Matrix 4. I think. Yeah. Yeah, Escape Room. Yeah, Escape Room 2. That too. So I talked about alongside all those movies. That was a dark time. It felt like every big movie was being delayed by a year. It was the worst. And then the next time I talked about it was episode 112. Talked about it alongside what else? Black Adam, The Flash, and also Aquaman 2, Shazam, Wonka, Meg 2, and DC League of Super Pets. That was last year. But the thing is, like, Shazam got pushed back and then pushed back some more. But this was the weekend where it was like, no, it's moving up. It's gonna move up. Move up, and that was like a positive. Uh, yeah. Uh, okay, so the next was episode 122. I lost my train of thought for a second. So talked about it alongside the Avatar re-release that happened last year. Talked about how it got moved up like 5 days. So believe it went from like April 2022 to November 2022 to June 2023, then to December 2022, and I was like, okay, this movie's coming out. This is great. I get to talk about it soon, and then boop, episode 151 happens where it got delayed again to March. Talked about it alongside Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, The House Party, Salem's Lot, Evil Dead Rise, and The Nun 2. Talked about alongside all those movies. So, yeah. Yeah, and that's that. Yeah, that's all the episodes I talked about it. So if you want to watch any of those episodes, any other episodes I've done, all 182 episodes up to this point, go right ahead. Um, if you want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you to do that. So go do it. And there's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. March recaps will come out after Easter, and I thought it would be a pretty, I thought it'd be a pretty predictable video. Not anymore. With Shazam 2 bombing, like that makes things a lot more interesting for me. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.